You wake up, it's 6:30 a.m. The alarm rips you out of deep sleep. Your first thought isn't about the light falling through the window or the air in your room. Your first thought is a list. A to-do list you need to get done today. Meetings, deadlines, obligations, places you need to be on time. You function, you perform, you work. A modern human spends an average of 90,000 hours of their life working. That is roughly 1/3 of your entire waking existence dedicated to a job. We accept this as a universal truth, as the price of adulthood, as the system we simply exist in. But here's a question nobody asks. What did you actually do before this system existed? For 99% of human history, the question, "What am I working on today?" wasn't hypothetical. It was a completely absurd non-concept. Jobs didn't exist. There were no employees, no wages, no supervisors, no career ladders to climb, no 40-hour work weeks, no retirement you spend your whole life working toward just to finally be allowed to live. When we look 300,000 years into our past, we find a reality so far removed from our modern, tightly scheduled hustle that it almost reads like science fiction. For a long time, we believed our ancestors spent every waking moment in a brutal struggle for survival. We've long pictured prehistoric life as an exhausting, daily scramble for calories, overshadowed by the relentless threat of becoming someone else's prey. We thought their lives were short, hard, and merciless, every day a battle for existence. That assumption was wrong, very wrong. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee traveled to the Kalahari Desert to study the Juhwansi, one of the last remaining groups on this planet still living the way our earliest ancestors did, as hunter-gatherers, without agriculture, without industry. Lee wanted to know how much time a human actually needed to stay alive. He logged every step, every gathered nut, every hunted calorie. He published his findings in 1968, and they destroyed our entire worldview. The adults of the Jews/Hwansi spent an average of about 15 to 20 hours a week securing food and maintaining their camp. That is roughly 2 to 3 hours a day. 15 hours. That is all nature demands of us. The rest was free time, time nobody else controlled. Anthropologist Marshall Solins coined the term the original affluent society, not because these people possessed material wealth, not because they had closets full of things, but because they had an abundance of something far more valuable: time. A concept the modern human has completely lost touch with. Some of you are thinking right now, that was a study from the 1960s in a specific desert. That doesn't prove how all ancient humans lived. A fair question. The answer doesn't lie in theories. The answer lies in our bones. When archaeologists compare the skeletons of ancient hunter-gatherers to the skeletons of early farmers, the contrast is staggering. The first humans who began tilling fields about 10,000 years ago, working hard in a regulated rhythm, paid a cruel price. Their bones show massive signs of malnutrition. Their spines were deformed from monotonous field labor. Their teeth were ruined by grain-heavy diets. They shrank in stature. They died younger. The hunter-gatherers before them, they were taller. They had stronger bones, perfect teeth, less joint wear. The evidence is overwhelming. Before we settled down and started toiling from sunrise to sunset, we exerted ourselves far less, not more. The invention of constant labor ruined us physically. Let's do a thought experiment. Let's reconstruct a day exactly as your brain, biologically speaking, expects it. You wake up, no alarm. Your body responds to the light of dawn and the sounds of your tribe. You stretch. The fire from last night is still smoldering. You eat something gathered the day before. The morning is social. People talk, people laugh. Eventually, a small group decides to leave camp to forage or hunt. But here's the crucial point. You don't go every day. If the hunt on Tuesday was successful, there is no reason to be productive on Wednesday. You stay in camp. You might pick up a tool. You carve a spear, repair a basket, or soften leather. But this isn't work in the modern sense. There is no supervisor breathing down your neck. There is no deadline. You work focused, at your own pace, because you take pride in your skills. Because making things with your own hands brings satisfaction. By early afternoon, long before anyone in a modern office would even think about clocking out, the productive part of the day is completely over. What happens in the remaining 6 or 7 hours of the day? Everything and nothing. People sit in the shade. They play with the children. They groom each other, repair clothes, doze in the sun. Anthropologists call this social time. In a world without police, without contracts, and without currencies, your survival doesn't depend on your bank account. Your survival depends on your relationships. Those who like you will share their food when you are hungry. So you don't invest time in a resume. You invest time in people. And then the sun sets. That is the moment something magical happens. Researchers have analyzed hundreds of hours of campfire conversations among modern hunter-gatherers. During the day, conversations are practical. Who saw tracks where? Where is water? But as soon as the fire is burning and darkness falls, logistics disappear. The focus shifts. 81% of campfire talk is devoted to stories, myths about the stars, legends of ancestors, jokes, deep philosophical questions. And here, the greatest secret of our species is revealed. What happened to all the time our ancestors didn't have to work? They didn't just survive, they created. In 2008, archaeologists in a cave in southern Germany found something that explains our entire existence. It was a flute, carved from the bone of a griffin vulture, 5 finger holes, perfectly spaced. It is 40,000 years old. Think about that. Someone living 40,000 years ago, tens of thousands of years before the invention of the wheel, before agriculture, before any known civilization, sat in a cave. And instead of sharpening weapons, instead of worrying about tomorrow's food, this person spent hours, maybe days, carving a flute with absolute precision. Not for hunting, not for defense, for music. In South Africa, researchers found 75,000-year-old shells with tiny holes drilled through them. They were beads for a necklace. Someone had walked miles to the coast to collect shells, just to wear them as jewelry. Necessity didn't invent art. Necessity didn't invent music. Time did. Boredom did. Freedom from chronic stress did. What this tells us today is staggeringly clear. We haven't become a different species. You have the exact same brain in your head as the person who carved that flute 40,000 years ago. Your brain wasn't built to process spreadsheets for 8 hours a day, answer 50 emails, and then worry about inflation on the commute home. It isn't designed for artificial, perpetual stress and chronic multitasking. Modern psychologists talk about the default mode network, a network in your brain that only activates when you are doing absolutely nothing on the outside. When you stare into space, when you rest. Exactly this network is responsible for creativity, for problem solving, for empathy, and deep self-awareness. It is the seat of your humanity, but it shuts down the moment you take on a new task or look at your smartphone. We have created a system that forces us to act against our own biology every single day of our waking existence. We rush through the day, proud of how busy we are, and call it success. We treat exhaustion as a status symbol. We optimize our morning routines to squeeze even more performance out of a body that really just wants to exist. We traded freedom for food security and real time for productivity. We chase an ideal we believe is the only way. We work for decades, sacrifice our best years, save money, hoping to finally be allowed to retire at 65, only to finally do what we actually wanted all along. Waking up without an alarm, structuring the day at our own pace, working in the garden, spending time with family, pursuing hobbies without economic pressure. But the truth is, our ancestors didn't have to become successful to live this life. They didn't have to build an empire or get promoted. They woke up in that exact freedom every single morning. They were already enough. You are spending your entire life working for a state of being that humanity had entirely for free for 300,000 years. Maybe it is time to stop judging ourselves when we need a break, when we have no desire for the constant hustle, when we strive for slow, organic growth instead of the ultimate burnout. You aren't lazy for wanting to step off the hamster wheel. You are simply human, and your brain is craving what it has known for tens of thousands of years. A little bit of work, a lot of community, and at the end of the day, time for stories around the fire.